Alright guys, so in this video I'm simply going to be installing these motor meter racing gauges into this Humvee you see behind the gauges. These are interesting. A lot of people go with the Speed Hut gauges. I see those are really popular. They made a kit for the Humvee, and but they're really expensive. I can't remember exactly how much they are. I think they're at least $700 or $800, depending on who you buy them from. These, in my opinion, look just as good, if not better, and they are far cheaper. I think less than half that cost. Once again, can't remember. I'll put a link in the description. Alright guys, so check this out. I got the volt gauge out here. I am very impressed already with this panel, at least, in the construction of it. So basically these are threaded, the gauges themselves, and they have these collars that thread on. So I will be able to simply connect this, and yes, I'll have to disconnect it and reconnect it before I put it in here, obviously, but I will be able to connect this to test it in the Humvee, and then simply put it through that collar, reconnect it, or put it through the panel, reconnect it, and thread that collar on. So that definitely makes life a little easier. And it's just, that is plastic, of course, but I am pretty staggered with the quality. Normally when I buy aftermarket Humvee stuff, I hate to say it, but I'm really disappointed with it. So far, my initial impressions is this is quite good. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting these gauges plugged in and just testing them one by one, and then I will work on getting them fitted into the panel, and we'll see how that goes. Alright guys, so check this out. I'm honestly even more impressed with these gauges. I promise I'm not sponsored, at least not at this point. But they have a breakdown of what everything is for. I know that seems like it's not that impressive, but once again, for aftermarket that's going on a Humvee, this is really good. Not used to seeing instructions whatsoever. So we are looking at the voltage gauge at the very bottom here. Okay, so red is obviously positive, black is obviously negative, the yellow is the backlight, which I think was what I was suspecting, and the white is to change color. So you touch that with the ground and you can change the color. Oh, and look at this, it even gives the number of the wire. So these wires, if you're familiar with Humvees, they have little metal tabs with numbers on them. It even tells you which number to wire that to. That is fantastic. Alright guys, so here we go. I've got that wired in. The backlighting is on. Once again, I wish I had 3 hands here, but let me show you as best I can. So you simply touch this white ground wire to change the light. So we've got red, we've got white, which I think I'm going to go with. Touch it again. We've got yellow. Yellow looks quite nice. We've got blue. That also looks quite nice. Purple. And green. I think green's the last one. Oh, a darker blue. Red. I'm also a big fan of red. I just like red. I think it's easier on the eyes. I could be totally wrong on that. Blue at night is just rough on the eyes, in my opinion. But I think what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to set this up as white, if I can get to it. Alright guys, I got this thing in. Yeah, that looks good. That's almost too nice for the Humvee. But yeah, just good clean look, it makes me realize how old and weathered some of the other stuff is. So let's go ahead, we'll hit the run switch. All the gauges are cycling. I've noticed, well, maybe not. Okay, I was gonna say you gotta turn on the lights for them to come on, but I was actually wrong. They just take a second. Turn on the lights. Whew, that looks way too good. Very nice. Fuel level is pegged on full because my sending unit is bad. I did some testing on that earlier. Voltage appears to be working. Water, oil are reading 0, along with mile per hour. So I'm gonna warm this thing up and then go for a drive and just confirm everything else is working. I'm really excited for the GPS speedometer. That's something I probably didn't mention enough. This goes off GPS signal, which is going to be so much more accurate than the cable-driven speedometer, I think. And you also have a little digital odometer and yada, yada, yada. Also, brights. You get a bright signal. Turn signals, you normally would have that light up, but I have to wire that in still. The only gripe, two small gripes with this whole thing. One of them was one of the connectors they supplied or had already wired up was a female, and it should have been a male, which is, I'll let that go because there was like 50 different ones. And the other is, if you're running in this format, which is the way they come shipped with your mile per hour, your speedometer over here, you cannot quite reach over here where I'm just doing a little cheesy splice job, and I'm going to be running my turn signal wires. So maybe I could even be wrong. Maybe there's somewhere else you can, splice into and blah, blah, blah. But that's just for your turn signal indicator. So not a big deal. I'm going to just extend those later. I got them hanging out there. And then I'll have my turn signal indicators on this because I'm like an old man and I leave my turn signals on all the time, especially in Humvees, because you can't hear the clicking. I don't even know if they make a click, but you can't hear it over the idling engine or the running motor. So anyway, let's get the sucker warmed up. All right, guys. Let's see what they're looking like. I've been letting it warm up for a second here. Oh, jeez. Oh. All right. Water is temperating. Oil pressure looking good. Volts are doing their thing. Obviously, MPH is at 0. So, yeah, this is really good. I'm liking this. Interestingly enough, on the oil PSI, it is rating like 35, I would say, which is really good because, on the Humvee gauges, it always seemed like it was rating, I don't know, sometimes 10 or 15 while I was idling. Now, of course, it's not totally warmed up. You see it actually just dropped a little bit. So that'll probably drop. Oh, went back up. I don't know. I'm sure that'll come down a little bit. But that looks way more natural than the stock Humvee gauges where it'll be like that. The range is just different. They read different. So I'm liking that. It almost kind of looks like the fuel gauge is starting to work, but I know my sending unit's bad. I also like the water gauge, way more range. It just looks good. So this looks really nice. Like I said, it's almost too nice for the Humvee, but that's all right. So I'm gonna go for a drive. I'll film the Speedo doing its thing as best I can, and I'm gonna go pick up some tacos. Alright guys, here's the mile per hour gauge reading. Sorry, I'm looking out the windshield, not at my phone, so I might not be filming it correctly. But the odometer has its first mile on it, looks like. And here's everything else, so it looks quite nice. Also, I put the Humvee insulation back in this thing, and it is, believe it or not, way quieter. So this is really nice. I just want to show you some stuff now that the truck is warmed up. So oil pressure is about like how it shows up on the Humvee. I know this camera is getting a little blown out by the light, but that's showing like maybe 11 psi. So I don't know why these motors have such low oil pressure, or maybe something's wrong with mine, but my last Humvee was the same way, so I'm inclined to think this is just how they are. Interesting thing with water pressure though, water temperature. It's showing about maybe 185 at this point, 186, not quite 190. And I think that's interesting because the other gauge, anytime I was driving, that sucker was on at least 200, usually around 210 to 230.
is kind of what it would do with the fan kicking on and off. Now it might just be a cooler night outside, and I don't know, like maybe it's just not running as hot as it usually does, but that was pretty consistent across the board. Even on cool days, I would get that. So I suspect the Humvee water temp gauges might read a little high. The volt, which this is much more normal, by the way, of what you'd see of a typical, engine. The voltage is showing like 29. It's a 24 volt system. I think that's pretty normal. Like typically on a 12 volt system, you'll see 14 when it's running, or even when it's not. And weirdly, fuel level might actually be reading now, but I know my float, my sending unit, whatever you want to call it, it's pretty much shot. Quick comment too on the speedometer. I think it reads just a little high. I did my Google Maps, and my Google Maps was saying I was going a little slower than what the speedo was, and also I did the GPS speedo on my phone, and it was kind of saying the same thing, just not as extreme. So this may be reading anywhere from 2 to 5 miles an hour high, but it could also be that my phone reads high and this is reading correctly. I don't know. This is a dedicated speedometer GPS module, whereas a phone, it does have that ability through the nav, but it's not its only job. So maybe my phone's reading low. Regardless, I'm really happy with it. I think it looks great, especially at night, and it seems to be working quite well. So this is just my initial impressions, guys. There will be a lot, of mileage I put on this thing, and we'll see how it holds up. I'll keep you guys posted, especially if anything goes wrong. But I'm super happy with this, guys. I appreciate you watching the video. I have a non-affiliate link in the description of where you can buy these. Hopefully that'll change to an affiliate link in the future. Maybe someone from Motometer Racing will see this video, and I'm sure it's going to get them some sales. So at least for this, for Humvee people. But thank you so much, guys. Hope you can like and subscribe. We are almost at 12,000, which is absolutely awesome. And maybe one day I will be mailed a play button. I think I just have to get to 100,000. So thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next one.